use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for war, motherfucker, by peace. We take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but mans keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, like guys, let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch me, please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
We have an overflowing cornucopia of things to talk about today. Stunningly off of that Monday Night Football game, I cannot explain to you the hundreds of things everyone here is eager to talk about. But I can't start with any of them because I have to explain to the audience on this Greg Cote Tuesday as he lubricates, which he could have done at any point before we started the show, but he decided because Greg Cote Tuesdays are unruly.
Well, he's about to talk, so that's why he did it.
Right, I know, but
exactly.
So I'm going to tell the audience what just happened and what my general Greg Cote Tuesday experience is. Greg, what are you laughing about? Is that your asthma inhaler?
It is.
Yep.
Way to make light of it. Way to make fun of the handicapped.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Are you making fun of the handicapped if you're making fun of an asthma inhaler?
Mike said something in his ear, and Greg laughed.
Right. I did.
To answer your question.
I know. I thought he was saying it aloud.
Would you like to share it with us?
Yeah. You were making fun of me for taking a swig of my coffee, and I was doing it to lubricate my throat.
You'll admit it was a poorly timed swig of
no,
coffee.
I don't think. I think it was
Lubing it
right as he starts the show.
And Mike put in my ear, tuning up the band, which I thought was worth a chuckle.
Right, but he wanted you to say it.
I know.
It would have been funny if you had said it to
funny.
everybody. And
Yeah.
but this, okay, so this is.
Sometimes you get mad at me for interrupting and talking over you.
If
Right.
we weren't
Good plan.
live,
Yeah,
I
you
would
never
have
know.
restarted the show.
You never know.
Get it together, guys.
Let me explain to the audience. You want it gotten together, but here's the problem I run into. As we sit down with 1,000 things to talk about, Greg Cote is in no way prepared to discuss much of anything because Mike Ryan has to say to me, and this is not the most efficient way to do this. We're a big deal now. We're on Max. Greg Cote doesn't know what that is. Right. We'll explain it to him in a second.
The Greg Cote Show is on minimum.
As we're getting ready to start, the frustration that not just Mike Ryan, that I have is the general inefficiency, because we've got a lot to talk about, that Mike Ryan is saying to me, can you tell Greg, and Lucy's laughing while he does this, can you tell Greg to put the microphone in front of his mouth, because it was not in any way prepared to start the show. But the reason I had to tell Greg is because his headsets were not on either. However, what he had conveyed ad nauseum for the 5th time to me right before that, moving the microphone out of his face so that I could see his face when he said it, is, hey, Dan, I'm serious about that idea of Meadowlark Media funding and creating a Greg Cote mascot.
I am.
It's a great idea.
I'm glad you're behind it because it's a brainstorm I had. I even wrote it in my iPhone notes.
Nice.
And I showed it to Christopher this morning. A life-size, lifelike mascot of myself that would be available for all sorts of purposes. And I don't know. I haven't looked into the pricing, but I'm going to give Meadowlark the opportunity to sponsor my mascot. I think it's a great opportunity for Meadowlark. And it's
very nice of you.
I want to involve you guys.
You know what just hit me is 97 million more people across the globe have access to us thanks to being on Max now. And they might be wondering aloud who the doddering old man is.
Well, this is the thing.
And I would say that's Dan Le Batard of the Miami Herald and, pardon the interruption, and formerly of Highly Questionable.
It is a good way to introduce our new audience of 97 million potential customers. Greg Cote doesn't know what it is. Was asking his son earlier, when his son told him excitedly, this is your first day on Max. This is a big deal.
Right.
Like, not everybody gets these deals
Sure.
where you get to take your little YouTube thing that is live and give it to somebody, and then you've got something that's getting Max exposure.
Great.
But what did Greg ask you, Chris?
Where is it? Mm-hmm. What? How many things are we on?
Oh, lots happening.
Yep.
But because of my debut on Max, that's why I'm wearing my fancy shirt.
Nice.
You know, I dressed up for the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
with
You
my
found
pearl
out
buttons.
after you got in the car.
That's true too.
You have it back in my day as well,
That would
right?
make it all.
not
That wouldn't
yet.
make it true too. That would just make it true, unlike what you said earlier.
Yeah, but when he mentioned it used to be HBO Max,
Right.
it put it in context for me.
Oh.
You know, I'm surprised they dropped the HBO because that was quite.
Let's
a
just
brand.
stop him right now before he gets going.
Let's.
You guys asked. I mean, you
Don't
asked.
let him tune up that band.
No,
You wanted
let's-
his headsets on. You wanted the
yes.
microphone in front of his face. I mean,
Fair point by Stugotz. You know what? I'm going to regather ourselves. Greg, do me a favor.
Matt Eberflus.
Do me a favor and just go sit on the therapy couch for a second as I explain to the audience. No,
Amazing.
because we
Not
don't
your
want
fault,
you.
Greg.
No,
No.
it's not your fault. But again, you may be wondering who the doddering old man is, who's trusting his teammate and lifelong friend, and it is Dan Le Batard throwing the show to Greg because I believe there's content around both the mascot and his not knowing what Max is. However, there is one pothole he could step in here, and he doesn't know what it is because he doesn't know what Max is.
yeah.
I do now.
So go sit out there.
He's
Go-
on Min, I mean.
Go sit.
Exactly.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Greg Cote show on Min.
Let me gather myself and
Okay.
take control of the show while explaining to the audience what Greg Cote Tuesdays are. If you haven't been with us for 20
I
years,
love Max.
get out of here.
Have a good time on the couch, man.
One of the most successful jokes that we have around here. It's worked since the start of time. Before which Greg Cote was born is he annoys me, but I find him genuinely and generally always funny. And so he has used that and parlayed that into great internet fame, and his podcast, The Greg Cote Show, featuring Greg Cote, is very popular. But he has played defense against this show being done well for 20 years, and he makes it better by making it worse.
It's with Greg Cote.
The Greg Cote Show featuring Greg Cote is not available on Max. It is available wherever it is you get your podcasts. Among the number of things that we have to talk about in sports today, especially locally, Stugotz, I now do a word association with JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul. And the word association is give me that update that was done at ESPN that could give us the context on what Dan is talking about.
Giants owner John Mara, who also today said he doesn't know how many fingers JPP has.
That was a Sports Center update
Yep.
on the worldwide leader after JPP with firecrackers on 4th of July had blown off some of his fingers. The Dolphins have now signed JPP because they need a pass rush because Phillips is out.
Wait, that audio wasn't a bit?
No, that's
That
not
was
a
a
bit.
No, that's
real-
real.
No,
yeah,
this
it
is it.
happened.
Thank you,
I'll never
Jeremy.
forget it.
Jeremy,
yeah.
I'm glad we can introduce you to this. Maybe Lucy as well. We were just doing the show. We were talking about this thing, and we were asking fairly innocently, hey, are you allowed to make fun of someone losing their fingers? Because it doesn't seem like it'd be very fun, and it seems like a bad thing to make fun of. And then as we're discussing, hey, this has to be taken seriously, right? We cannot joke about it, and this is how we took it seriously by listening to this update.
Giants owner John Mara, who also today said he doesn't know how many fingers JPP has.
That's so good.
Who also today.
That's right. Well, the sing-songy broadcaster voice really brings it home.
It's perfect.
Did you know he was still in the league?
I did, but I thought he was like the Ravens or 2 teams ago. I did not know he was on the Saints practice squad.
Hanging on.
Yes,
Waiting for someone to tear their Achilles.
The mascot is intended for the Greg Cote Show podcast, not the Le Batard Show. I'm trying to swing it where Meadowlark pays for my mascot that's really used on my show. But what's going to happen is I'm going to make the mascot available on Tuesdays when I'm in here. So it's going to work out for everybody. You know,
Chris, what happened with the conversation with Max? Like he has no idea where to find it, and when you explained to him HBO, that's when he understood.
Yes, until I said HBO, he was like, "What's Max? Where are we? Is this a stream?" It was just I was telling him a new word.
I walked into an old-fashioned post office the other day, and two of the guys there who were working there.
I'm storyboarding it. It's not complete yet, but I'm thinking of making the mascot, the Greg Cote mascot, available for grand openings, premieres, movie premieres, any public occasion that might be enhanced by a life-size.
There are two guys in there, and they've been like lifelong Miamians, and they're super excited to see me. Super excited to see me. In an old school post office from a different time. I felt like I was in the 80s. And they say, "Where are you now?" Huge fans.
I get that a lot.
And I'm like, YouTube. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we don't have time."
Allergic.
I could have said Max. This was a couple of days ago. I could have said Max, and then they would have been like, "You're dead. Where is that?" Just like it. Because we have
to possibility that this thing could really mushroom. If it takes off as a life-size mascot, why not miniature plush toys? In my likeness. Just for the holidays. You sell them year-round because they're not pegged to a particular holiday.
That's not a bad idea, actually. We're going to reopen our merch store here shortly for the holidays. David Sampson has finally figured that part out. But we do have stuff to get to here in sports, Stugotz, because that Panthers game last night was fairly amazing.
It was. They won the game. Big fight as well. I'm still stuck on JPP. He made a Pro Bowl in 2020.
What?
He did, yeah. I do wonder if he has some explosive plays left. Oh, that's ridiculous. No.
What do you mean, no?
I don't accept that. It was a funny joke. Also a joke I've made 1,000 times since that report.
Yeah, that part.
It's the only joke you've made. Are you proud of that? Are you proud when you play the laziest of your hits?
Yes.
You are? Yeah. That was pride in that
was pride in my voice, yes.
All of us looked at you and you turned away from me and it looked like you were about to leave the room. I thought you were going to the penalty box self-punished.
Panthers Senators fireworks last night. Let's talk about it.
There were fireworks last night. Did we have fireworks on our grid of
de-escalating tensions? I don't think fireworks were on there.
Fireworks were not on there, but those were fireworks last night. When's the last time you heard an official, a referee, do anything like this at the microphone?
Throws it up there. Portlasallo the save out of the box. Brady Tkachuk has got it. He's got to get around the stick. Now shoots. Bobrovsky the save. Bumps into him on the way to the net. Kulikov goes after Brady Tkachuk. The folks are already off. Everybody piles in, and here we go.
Right now we're watching chaos.
Down in to grab somebody.
That's right. Just the last place in sports where this is allowed. All of this is
should be at a Senators meeting.
It's.
I told you Senators should fight.
Yes, you did mention that. These two teams weirdly hate each other with the hatred and the heat of 1,000 suns.
It's very odd between these two teams because they had an all-out brawl last year when they met up, when the Senators had nothing to play for. You see Matthew Tkachuk is already in the sin bin. His brother Brady Tkachuk plays for the Senators.
Sin bin.
I'm really genuinely curious as to why these two teams hate each other, especially considering that the brothers are pretty tight. But after this melee in Ottawa, the official came out and announced a 10-minute major penalty for everybody on the ice. I don't think I've ever seen that.
No, but that's the
Both
sound.
teams?
That's the sound that I would like to get to, and we will get to it in a moment. But now that Greg Cote is back, I did want to discuss the mascot with him because this Panthers game is worth talking about because they sent everyone away. It's one of the rare places where you get a situation. Fighting's allowed. It's allowed. It's allowed. Too much. Everybody get out of here. If this happened in any of the other sports, any of the other major sports, what we just witnessed, which happens, frequently in hockey, what we just witnessed would be something that would carry your news for the entirety of the week. Football, baseball, basketball, any of that happened, we would have a week's worth of coverage.
Think about what Draymond Green just got suspended 5 games for.
Right.
It was
Wrapping
one
a guy
headlock.
up.
That was it. Just one headlock.
He got suspended for what the officials are doing in pulling players off of this fight. The officials are doing Draymond Green.
And the
left
best
right.
part, not the best part, one of the funnier parts was them cutting to Grandma Kachuk. Just looking mortified during this. She just had her arms folded. Like, she wasn't scared. She knows what her kids, like her grandkids do, but it was just hilarious. They kept cutting
There was
her.
Grandma Kachuk, Grandpa Lomberg in the stands. It was just a horrific display in front of this wonderful crowd.
Wait a minute. You're saying horrific, but those grandparents, hockey grandparents, Mike Ryan, those grandparents have been watching those boys fight for 60 years.
Look at the grandma.
For 60 years.
You can't be mortified. You can't be shocked.
No,
right?
that's a grizzled hockey family. She expects it. That's what they do for the holidays.
I have a theory that these two guys, like, they get overly aggressive in this game because they don't want their teammates to think they're taking the game off. They don't want Kachuk doesn't want Lomberg thinking, oh, I'm not playing hard against the Senators. So they go above and beyond physical just to make let their teammates know, hey, I mean business even against my brother.
She actually looks like she wants to fight.
That's right. Because she does. Because she does. Geraldine is pissed that she's not right in the middle of all of that. Throwing haymakers and hams and yelling, suspend me.
That's right. Put her in a uni.
2 years running, this is the most penalized game of the season. Senators, Panthers. You can throw out the records when these two get together. You really can.
5-0 last night, Panthers.
That's right.
Put the kids to bed early, huh?
Oh, yeah. When it sends Panthers, this is the hottest rivalry.
We really need to. Did you realize if this happened in a Heat-Knicks game or no, bleep that. Mike Ryan still hasn't forgiven Jokic. Mike Ryan still hasn't forgiven it.
Dude.
Mike Ryan
just bumping him in the back.
For a Morris brother. For pushing a Morris brother.
You're lucky that Grandma Morris wasn't in the sands. Dirty player. And then the weirdest fan base in all of basketball. Like, just use your eyes. Throws his body and weight around, like, recklessly, with intention.
I have for you, because this hasn't gotten into the news stream yet today, I've got for you top 5 things from last night's Clippers-Nuggets game.
Wow.
Top 5 most shocking.
You have a top 5?
Top 5 most shocking things. I think it's the first time I've ever come in here with a top 5 because this game, I want to break, Max is starting and I want to have things first. You should see how well our Frank Reich video is doing because we were first to market on Frank Reich. We got to get good at this game of getting things out there in the news quickly as soon as they happen.
That video was so great to seize on the algorithm, with the exception of Stugotz not listening as it was happening.
It was beautiful.
At all.
It was beautiful. But maybe he'll listen to this because it involves dollars.
All right.
Frank Reich.
Yeah.
Double firing in 13 months. We have to have a Stugotz Memorial Award for guy who was the greatest of the thieves. 13 months, fired twice. Frank Reich is owed by the Colts $36 million. Still.
Right.
Through 2026, that's the Colts paying Frank Reich. Now, maybe his contract has offsetters when he goes to Carolina.
And just so we're clear, that $36 million is for getting fired there, right?
That is correct.
Okay, got it.
Frank Reich and all that happened there, he'd still be there if Andrew Luck hadn't retired.
Mm-hmm.
And
With a ring, perhaps.
That's all that happened. This is the Andrew Luck Memorial.
Pagano would still be there if Andrew Luck never retired.
That's correct. The stipend, though, this has got to. We have to look, Stugotz. I can't believe I'm saying this. When next year the Cincinnati Reds will pay Ken Griffey Jr. $3.6 million. Okay,
The kid.
The Ken Griffey Jr., who is 50-something years old, next year, the Reds, he will be one of the Reds' highest-paid players at $3.6 million. But I am willing to make Frank Reich right now, not Bobby Bonilla, Frank Reich, the face of stealing money in sports years after you've been any good. Frank Reich not only gets that money from the Colts, but now the Carolina Panthers will pay him $25,000 a day for the next 3 years.
Oh, my God. I should have been a coach.
Yep.
I can be bad and get fired.
We've seen this in college football, too. This week, Tom Allen got fired by Indiana. Tom Allen, we probably haven't heard of him.
Yeah, I don't know who that
really,
is.
really bad.
Yeah.
The third highest buyout ever, $20 million to
amazing.
not live in Bloomington, Indiana, and coach the Hoosiers football team.
As I continue to seize on the Carolina Panthers news-breaking algorithm, this comes courtesy of Jack Kennedy. Here's what David Tepper's time in Carolina has consisted of. He spent a third-round pick on Will Grier. He signed Teddy Bridgewater for $33 million guaranteed. He cut Cam Newton. He traded a second, fourth, and sixth for Sam Darnold. He traded Bridgewater for a sixth. Then he picked up Sam Darnold's $18.85 million option. Then he signed Cam Newton. He spent a third-round pick on Matt Corral. Then he traded for Baker. Then he cut Baker. Then he cut Cam again. Then he drafted Bryce Young over C.J. Stroud. And after the Matt Rule era, he hired Frank Reich, and he fired him after 11 games. David Tepper is a problem. He's the problem there.
He is. Did you see who has interest in that job now, though?
Greg Olson.
Yes. I love that.
Just wants to cut the line. Says, I'm willing. If Tom Brady comes and takes my job for $375 million, I am willing, with no credentials whatsoever other than I talk about footballs on Sunday and played it on Sundays. No credentials. I want my Jeff Saturday deal.
What do you think Brandon Staley said thought yesterday when he saw an alert on his phone, a coach fired? He had to have oh, shit.
Right.
Oh,
No,
Frank
no,
Reich.
not before the Patriots game. Please, not before the Patriots game.
You think Tom Allen is happy? Honestly.
So happy.
Yes, I agree.
So happy.
That's crazy. What Lucy just said is crazy. $20 million for Indiana's coach to get bought out.
Third highest ever
Nuts.
for Indiana football.
Mike, I know we can't talk about some of the specifics around some of this because I genuinely wonder if we're going to go and make college sports this professional, how far we are from the day when we just know what a Tyler Van Dyke is making. We just know. Publicly, we know all the numbers on all of the players the same way that I know that Ken Griffey Jr. is going to be making $3.6 million next year.
He signed a 2-year deal at Oklahoma for, $25 million.
Well, I don't think I think Mike will give us information not here but around some of the business of this because Tyler Van Dyke's career, a disappointment at the end, expected nothing at the beginning. This was going to be De'Aaron King's team. He only got the start because De'Aaron King plays a style of football that'll get you hurt, and he created a huge amount of expectations with 400-yard games right off the bat when everyone thought that the backup quarterback situation would look like what it has this year.
Yeah,
where
keep in
you're
mind, TVD was a third-string quarterback. He only got onto the field because Jake Garcia also had an ankle injury, too. And after an initial struggle, he had a great stretch of games. It wasn't all puppy dogs and ice cream during the Rhett Lashley era, but Tyler Van Dyke really I think he set a record for consecutive 500-yard games, or he tied Joe Burrow. He came out of the gates firing.
He was the ACC Rookie of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing, though, is curious to me right now because I don't believe that he's got a lot of value. I don't know. He goes into the portal, and I think a lot of people have seen.
Dan, he was a projected first-round pick. There has to be a coach or a school out there. Well, at one point he was.
At one point, a blogger put him in the first-round draft pick. That was what bloggers were saying. I'm just saying,
okay, but we
don't know the true eval.
For me, I just need one blogger to do it, and a blogger did
Fair
it.
enough.
All right?
He's going to end up in the ACC at SMU.
Right.
That's where Lashley is. That's where who he had success with.
No, but there has to be a coach that thinks, hey, I can make that guy good. I saw enough, and I can make that guy good.
I think Tyler Van Dyke can really resurrect his career if he goes into an SMU type of offense, which is basically check with me. We'll line up at the line of scrimmage, look to the sidelines. There's one read, and I'm going to tell you exactly where to go with the ball because Tyler Van Dyke does struggle with reading defenses. And I will say that I guess a criticism that you could hold against Miami when it comes to the development of this quarterback is, well, why didn't you build an offense to cater to him? There's a lot that goes into an offense. We all agreed that Gaddis had to go after 1 year. They brought in a different type of offense. The offense was way better year over year. You can't just worry about the quarterback, and if your quarterback can't read a defense, that's an issue. But you can still put up big numbers, and you can go to a place that'll use his skills well. I thought he represented himself well as a professional here at the University of Miami. I think this year he played through injuries that were kind of kept quiet, that limited his ability to move, even though he's not the most mobile. That's a good way to break a zone. He definitely struggled against the zone, and I think both parties are going to benefit from moving on.
Willing to bet he finishes top 10 in passing yards in college football next year.
I mean, he's a veteran. He's experienced. He's a perfect one-season fix if you're a bad program or if you're just missing a quarterback. I can see a team signing him. But the problem is he's very sensitive to criticism. He hears every boo, and that's not particularly a good trait for a quarterback.
There's a mentality thing there that I don't think is – there's Manny guys and Mario guys. It's not A lot has been made of his mental makeup. I just don't know if it's a great fit. I think right now with all the portal news going on with Miami, you're seeing guys that if you're a Miami Hurricanes fan, you wish them the best. I think all parties are going to benefit from separating. Don Chaney had a good year. It's a shame that his legacy down here in Miami is going to be a fumble that wasn't actually a fumble. But big programs are apparently interested in him, or at least he feels that way. Miami needs to find a quarterback because they have a good offensive line, and they really what you want out of an offensive coordinator, right? This is a complaint. You did not maximize Tyler Van Dyke's skill set. Well, look at that wide receiver room. Look at the top receivers in the ACC. They certainly maximized that. Look at the running back room. They maximized that.
They did.
Look at the O-line. They maximized that.
The wide receivers, they got better numbers. I watched Texas's wide receivers, and it's like different human beings than Miami's wide receivers. It's like looking at you're talking about size differences. The speed's the same on Texas's receivers, but the size differences make the Miami receivers look like the ones I used to see at FAU when Lane Kiffin's program.
Yeah. The one big-bodied Miami receiver, Colby Young, is not a fast player. Miami was looking to upgrade, but Jacoby George had a great year. Restrepo almost got 1,000 yards. Now there's talk about Restrepo. He's weighing his options. The NFL is even an option for Restrepo and some of these receivers. I know there's some mystery around Rashad Smith, potentially. I think all these things are eventually good. If you look at the running backs that got touches for Miami, Mark Fletcher is considered a cornerstone for this program. That needs to be the floor for Miami to get to where they need to go. So I think this is ultimately going to be pretty good, although there's a lot of mystery around who the quarterback of this team will be, not just next year, but for the bowl game, because Ja'Cory Brown wasn't exactly happy this season with the treatment. He wanted to get in some games, and I know fans wanted to see him. So we'll see what happens in the bowl game. Otherwise, they might be running a wildcat.
Wide receivers at Texas, regardless of who they are, regardless if they're even good, they just look better.
Yes.
Same with Oklahoma State, same with Oregon, same with Washington. They just look better. Bigger and better.
Agreed on all counts. The uniforms help, except Washington. I think you're doing something funny there with Washington.
Well, this year they look great.
Well, they're undefeated. That's the part I think
Getting
you're doing.
disrespected, though.
What?
A 10-point underdog to Oregon. They beat them already. I mean.
All right.
Yeah.
But hold on a second. I just need to stop everything because I wanted to get to this mascot because I actually think it's a good idea. I'm ashamed to admit it. I think it should be Brad Williams. And I don't know the costume that we're going to put him in, but I feel like he should be the mascot on behalf of Greg Cote.
Then we can only use it when he's in town.
That is correct. But the thing that I wanted to stop on, because I'm genuinely torn on something here. Mike Ryan is inside this program and doing a hybrid navigation of insider journalist, but his allegiances are all shown. And what...
Contributor.
Hold on. When, yes, you're paying to be a booster for the school. You care deeply about the program. But when Draymond Green talks about new media, he doesn't, it's not just athletes coming into the space. Mike wants to do some of this stuff differently than it's been done, navigating the slalom courses of it'll be journalism, it'll be solid information, but also I'm a fan and here's where my biases are. However, and I believe that that's got enormous value. I believe that Mike Ryan has information and covers this program better than anybody in this market can cover this program because he's really on the inside as the whole business of it changes and he knows a lot of stuff that's fascinating. But while you're talking, Mike, and this is a problem and I don't know what to do about it because I think the information is valuable. While you're talking, you're doing so in a way that Jeremy is making faces as if he's eating lemons back there because he's looking at you and he's like, is he a Manny guy? And is he a Mario guy? And I can see it on Jeremy's face, and it's a glee face, but he's like, Mike Ryan, bleep you. Like, I can see on your face you're disgusted with something that Mike Ryan was saying, but I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was, is it a Mario guy or a Manny guy? And talking that language of Miami.
That's the one that really sent me over the edge because we've been doing that now since Mario showed up, and I was told before this season that it was a roster full of Mario guys now and that everything would be so much better and that when they were 3-0 or 4-0 that this team was destined for such great things and Tyler Van Dyke was going to be a first-round pick a couple of years ago and the offense was going to be transformed with him at quarterback and it's no longer guys like Malik Roser at quarterback and it's just I just feel like since I was 6 years old, I've been hearing a lot of similar stuff for a team to finish one game better in a Power
Why are you
5
talking
than
like that?
UCF in their first
have to
year.
talk
in
like
a
that
Power
when you're
Five.
saying it.
It's a fair enough criticism, and I'll just cut to it by saying, UCF, I don't think about you at all. So I don't know what exactly you're doing, but if you look at the offense, they've improved by 9 points since last year. I would say that if you watch these games, and I don't know if you did or not, last year's team quit.
Oh, wow.
They flatly quit. This team did not. So I do think that the mentality has changed. I do buy a lot in that intangible stuff. Unfortunately, it was only to the improvement of 2 wins, and you look at their stats where they rank in offense. I mean, they went from the 70s in some offensive categories to the 30s, and their defense was top 10 in the nation. They had a top 10 offensive line. You wonder, how did this team win 7 games? I'd say the Georgia Tech game really screwed up a lot of the math, because I entered this season thinking that this was an 8-win team. You look at what happened in Georgia Tech, it is an 8-win team. We'll see what happens.
Defensive Mike, back to you, defensive
No,
Jeremy.
I'm not being defensive. I'm being rational, and like the poison that you got, which is some fact, some just UCF shit. I don't care at all about you.
No, I agree completely. The offensive line got a lot better by getting a transfer from
Passive
UCF.
aggressive Jeremy, back to Mike.
No, Mike's not being an apologist for what he said.
Homer, Greg Cody.
The eye test is irrefutable. The eye test is irrefutable. This was a much better Canes team. They lost by 1 score to 2 top 10 teams. They're not that far, and Mario continues to do well in recruiting. I don't think you're not looking at the buyout just because the buyout is the rage now.
Over to
Everybody's buying out contracts.
They led the nation in moral victories.
Doesn't
how
watch
about
Stu.
that?
I all in all, I think Miami is kind of on track here, and this is the biggest 2 months of Mario's tenure. I think that you can be encouraged. The offensive coordinator, I know, Shannon Dawson, there were a lot of opinions when you isolate individual games because the quarterback, like Tyler Van Dyke, straight up lost that game at NC State. But I think he showed you, he made a mistake with Gaddis. He tried to cater the offense to the quarterback. He did all the things that you wanted. He found a good offensive coordinator in Shannon Dawson. He found a great find in Lance Guidry. I do think both coordinators are going to be back. They're both valued. Guidry should have a new deal in front of him unless a behemoth just tries to poke around and poach him with a staff that's coming together late. I think this program is right on track, and I think my expectations entering the season were 8 wins. And barring that weird Georgia Tech game, they're right there. And we'll see where we're at year 3. Year 3, there needs to be a huge uptick. And that game against Florida to start the season is basically, for Billy Napier, a loser leaves town match. And Mario definitely needs to go into Gainesville with that dub, because right now, if you look at the 2 coaches entering year 3, Mario is a great deal ahead of where Billy Napier is right now. That team needs to prioritize the portal because they need to win right away.
Now, Mike, let me ask you for your informed opinion. Why not get a starting quarterback through the portal? Like, there's guys out there.
They will.
That should be their priority, though, I would think, to get a starting quarterback in the portal.
They are, and it's funny how all this news breaks. Look, rest assured, Tyler Van Dyke's camp is talking about their options in October.
Right.
All these quarterbacks that have entered the portal have been back channeling for months. Miami is doing their due diligence when it comes to these quarterbacks. You've heard the names. Cam Ward is a prospect that really interests me, although everybody in the nation is going to be in on him. Will Howard's going to have suitors. Riley Leonard, I don't think, is a fit here for Miami. The chatter is that he's headed to Notre Dame. There's going to be domino pieces. The one that's really interesting, that if you listen to Pro Scouts, because I have friends and sources that are plugged in with Pro Scouts.
I hope you're going to say what I want you to say here.
Talia Tagovailoa.
That's what I was
the all-time
hoping you
Big
would
Ten
say.
leading passer. Now, here's the thing. If you listen to Talia's camp, they've been exploring options. It was well reported last year that they got an offer of over $1 million to go to an SEC school. Talia, their camp doesn't seem to think that he's going to go to the NFL, that he's going to stay in college football. Pro Scouts don't think Talia is going to be
He
coming
looks
out.
like a pro to me. Like Maryland football, he does not have a lot of help
He
there.
had a year, yeah.
No, not just this year, but last year too. Like he's
had a
looked
bad
good.
offensive line.
You like Mike Glennon. I mean,
Yeah, I did, but he was a first-round pick.
This is a name that naturally, especially down here in this market, would excite a lot of people. But here's the weirdest thing about Talia. There's all this certainty that he's coming back. He's out of eligibility. He doesn't have eligibility. You may say COVID year. He played in 2019. He appeared in 5 games. 2 of those games, he only handed the ball off. So he's going to need a hardship waiver. And the hardship waiver is going to be hard to get when your brother's, number one, making millions of dollars. And you also need assistance from Alabama. Alabama's not incentivized to help Talia. Maybe you can just, hey, you were good for us. Your family's been good to us. Mario helped Nick Saban out with some big-time recruits. But I don't really know the path outside of a waiver. And the NCAA has actually been kind of hard asses about these waivers. Just ask UNC. Like, it took moving heaven and earth to get Tez an extra year of eligibility. Darrell Jackson transferred from Miami to FSU. He didn't get a waiver. The NCAA is pretty strict when it comes to the eligibility that you have. He would be a post-grad, and it would be guaranteed to a post-grad, provided that he had an extra year of eligibility. I've reached out to people that are finding out what's papered in Alabama's compliance offices, because if you check Wikipedia, it says 3 games, but he appeared in 5 in 2019.
I'm laughing here. Didn't the NCAA give an 8th year of eligibility to a UM tight end?
Cam McCormick.
Okay, so
I think Utah's quarterback is on his 8th season.
So I
Get
don't
a
think
job.
I don't think it's out of the question that they give another year of eligibility.
I would say that it's what Greg's attitude, if you listen to it, it's just like, they'll figure it out. And that's kind of been the attitude around the rumor mill surrounding Talia.
Right.
And I don't necessarily see the path.
I want our Max listeners and watchers to know that this is a segment we call Overanalyzing an Average College Football Team. Back to you, Dan.
Oh, we do so much of it. We do so much of
For
it.
2 decades.
Wait till Texas A&M gets queued up.
Well, let's get that.
The Aggies.
Let's get that. Thank you, Stugotz, for nothing. Let's get that video queued up so that I can get to it next.
Or Pablo Torre, formerly of SI.
Or that.
To talk AI.
We are presently trying to climb into the infrastructure of Max. We're living here. Greg Cote is the future of sports media. Look at him. Max wants to be cutting edge. They want to be the future of sports. There he is. This guy, Greg
You're looking
Cote,
at the wrong camera, Greg.
is with us.
He doesn't care.
There you go.
I mean, he just doesn't care
This
anymore.
guy, Greg Cote, is with us to take us into the future as we take Max and we ascend to new heights and they ascend to new heights. And Stugotz is here saying, hey, God bless football. When's that going to be on Max? And Pablo Torre is here from Pablo Torre Finds Out, and he's like, when do I get to be on Max?
Yeah.
And we're just, it's baby steps. We're taking one hour into Max, but we want to get everybody over here. What, Greg?
What about the Greg Cote show on Max?
Zagacki.
Exactly, tailor-made.
Does it have a video component?
It can, where as soon as we buy a video machine.
Or as soon as DraftKings Networks learns to play reels.
You'll have the mascot money, so you'll be good.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. I got to buy a moving camera.
A video machine?
Yeah, whatever
Get
works.
one of those.
Your computer.
Yeah, we'll get it done.
Well, I can't make too much fun here because the other day I was talking about Ron Washington, making fun of Ron Washington, saying that they were going to chase down the West and you could take that to the bank and deposit it. And I was making fun of how old he was and that people don't do that at banks anymore. And I said I was going to go to a bank and videotape myself asking a teller to take that deposit of Ron Washington's guarantee. So I'm in no position to mock what's happening here to Greg Cote. However, Pablo, something I did want to put before you here. Pablo Torre Finds Out has rocketed up the charts. It is a very successful podcast. He's tackling all sorts of strange things that are super curious and weird and interesting. But I wanted to ask you about Greg Cote's idea, which is that Meadowlark Media should have a Greg Cote mascot. An actual mascot that represents just Greg Cote.
Yeah, I was listening to that. It's rare when you find a human being who wants to be mascotted in the era in which we are declaring many mascots problematic. And here is Greg saying, I want nothing more than to be your circus animal. Please reduce me to a caricature.
Thank you.
And I think that's so when I go to the office in New York, and hello, love you guys. Thanks for building a real media company for me. Appreciate. No, I mean that. I go on Max now and it's like, oh, look, it's White Lotus, Jennifer Coolidge, great. And then it's Greg Cote live in a local hour, which is remarkable. It's remarkable how we got in there.
Yep.
I didn't sign up for that. I gladly embrace it. But what I'm saying is when I walk into the New York office of Meadowlark Media, I walk into a fancy conference room. We are in West Soho, okay? Incredible real estate. John Skipper loves real estate. Sweeping views, floor-to-ceiling windows. Everyone's impressed when they walk in. And you walk in, and there's kind of this, like, Meadowlark's had a couple of logo changes. I don't know if people on the outside realize this. Whoa. It started off with a bit of, like, an illustrated bird. Now, and I apologize to John Skipper. I assume this is his call. The bird is kind of like a Judge Dredd like logo. It's almost like an XFL team. It's like a golden eagle against a black backdrop. It's very dystopian. So all of it is to say that Greg Cote might be an upgrade over the current kind of vibe, which is a post-apocalyptic media landscape, although that is appropriate for various reasons.
This thing's really taken off. This mascot thing. And thank you, Pablo, for endorsing the mascot, which I think you did. It's really taken off.
Well, what is the mascot? It hasn't taken off. We're talking
Greg
about
Cote.
it. We're entertaining your absurd idea, but it hasn't gone anywhere. And if you're familiar with what Meadowlark Media does other than change logos, all it does is dream up big ideas and then not do them.
Well, the thing is, and I've been...
They're like me?
I've been thinking about this as we do the show. I keep saying life size. Like, I'm 5'9". It should be some sort of an elastic mascot that enables smaller people and taller people to wear it. It has to fit. Has to be one size fits all. I don't know if that's possible in the mascot game, but that's something Meadowlark could look into.
What are you talking about?
What is anybody talking about right now?
Okay.
Was it Judge Dredd bird?
Yes, it was just on the screen, and I just saw it.
Hunger Games, admittedly. Now that I see it again, but kind of like there it is.
Oh, I'm looking at it.
I'm
now.
seeing that for
Kind
the
of
first
ominous.
time. I did not know we were
course,
doing
Dan,
a logo change.
It looks like the Steph Curry shoe logo.
The Mockingjay.
I like that. Sharp.
The thing we were talking about, Mike Ryan, is trying to figure out how to execute the idea. You have to understand early in the show, I need to engage this old man. I will lose him for the show. He's been petering out in hour 2 again and again because we're not talking about him.
Just stay on the mascot.
And his things enough.
We're still talking about that.
Mike, if I've got Mike.
And we brought in Pablo to discuss.
I've missed this, honestly, Mike. I've missed this. Just walking into a show in which nothing is really happening. I really appreciate joining you guys. Yeah,
I miss having control of the show.
Pablo, look, this is what we're dealing with. And his glass office is there with fancy logos. Pablo has got a hit show. It's a legitimately successful show. Pablo Torre finds out, and he is coming in here right now to show off. Look at him making a bunch of faces, and he's also here to bring us the smart. So because we don't have very much of that here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So Pablo, when you see immediately last night, the right picks up Sue Deadspin. Let's bankrupt them like Gawker, because a 5-year-old kid at a game has been dressed in face paint, and he is wearing Native American gear. He's at a Chiefs game. Half of his face is red, half of his face is black. He should be punished because he's wearing blackface, and you're only seeing half of his face. And then you see, no, there's also red face. And the right has picked this up and said, sue Deadspin, bankrupt Deadspin. And I can't help but laugh at the center of this. I can't help but laugh somehow at the idea of they want him sued for one racism while the kid is still in full racist garb. The only part of him that's not intentionally kind of racist is the black part. The rest is team colors, and he's going for just being a fan. But the racism is already in there, just not the kind that the right is picking up and flogging Deadspin with over a 5-year-old kid. Like, the stupidity of this is remarkable.
Yeah, it honestly makes me wonder if their hearts are really in it anymore. You know, like, the culture war was real gangbusters for a while. People got real mad. I was on Twitter trying to compete in the dunk on Donald Trump derby. I was trying to agitate. I got blocked by, or whatever it was, Clay Travis, and I got in a war at some point. Now it just feels like everyone's just kind of trying to trot out the hits. It feels like we're in the Vegas residency phase of racism policing, or whatever the opposite of that is. And so for me, I'm just like, oh, great, Deadspin, you're back. And whatever it is attacking you now, they clearly have some energy. That's cool. Because largely it just feels, Dan, like, I don't know, we're all just kind of exhausted by this. And the only people who might actually care about this truly, truly, truly are the people who are as you alluded to, the Native Americans who are so the red face headdress thing, we're just, okay, yep, we're still over here in the corner.
But Pablo, help me with this part, though. When Elon Musk and Ted Cruz are signaling, yes, go get Deadspin, and the greatest platform you can have even in 2023 is, bleep the media, everything's untrue. All of that, you can't get tired of fighting that. You can't.
Well, it's kind of like there's a bit of basketball analytics strategy here where it's just they're just hammering corner threes. Finally, Deadspin. Deadspin may have ignored the fact that half of this kid's face was painted red, and so Ted Cruz is going to do this. Dan, my true this is that the larger country is not online in the way that Ted Cruz is. And so the idea that Ted Cruz is he's campaigning against Deadspin.com in 2023, it's I don't know if that would have mattered at any point, but certainly now it just feels like it's, when I watch the midterm elections, and I'm fearful of Donald Trump, of course, becoming president again. When I watched the midterm elections in which the GOP was repudiated largely after running on a platform of internet brain, we're going to run on trans kids. We're going to run on the fact that the people you hate on Twitter are really annoying. We're going to get all these politicians doubling down on that. It didn't really work because I think a lot of just older people didn't get the reference. And now I laugh at the idea of Ted Cruz trying to explain, look, Deadspin was a thing. Before Gawker was destroyed by Hulk Hogan, it was really a thing. People cared about it. Dan Le Batard sold their Hall of Fame. They bought their Hall of Fame from Dan Le Batard. And it's just what are you talking about? That's how I feel most people in America are responding at this point to the internet brain grandpas at your Thanksgiving dinner.
Watching the victory lap from Elon Musk over community notes on Twitter signifying, hey, actually, the other half of his face is red, so not blackface, not racist, when the kid's literally in a headdress. It's just perfect comedy.
It is unbelievable.
It's perfect comedy.
Mike Schur and Adam McKay would write that. It is so stupid and amazing. Like, they would write that and nobody would believe it because it's asinine that would work as a political trick and when it's just pure comedy. But at the end of it, it's, and democracy's dead. Because
dead spin.
Yeah, that's the spin. Because that's going to be the spin on guns.
I just think it's intellectually lazy, don't you, Pablo? Because, I mean, like you said, when the culture wars felt more real and authentic, when they were on the cutting edge, it actually felt like there was genuine outrage. And the right would get mad at the left for being so sensitive. They would call them snowflakes. And now the right has kind of taken that playbook and just tried to outrage in a weird way to prove the left's hypocrisy, I guess, but genuinely trying to damage companies such as Target and Bud Light. And it actually has a real punitive effect, but this was the same type of behavior that they would openly lament a couple of years ago.
Well, everybody, the name of the game now, and this is the layup, right? This is the corner three. This is the easiest way to do politics now online, is to play hypocrisy detective. So everyone is looking for that. And meanwhile, it's like playing hypocrisy detective while a guy is taking a shit in your front lawn, right? And that guy is Jim Jordan. So, for instance, the idea, just to be clear for all the people who are not up on like the politics of all of this, the right really cares about protecting kids. We care about kids so much. How dare you attack this young, half black-faced young kid because he was only half black-faced? How dare you? How dare you take the scholarships away from the girls playing girls' sports against these trans monsters? And meanwhile, Jim Jordan, allegedly, although reportedly now exhaustively, according to various teammates, on his wrestling team in college, denied and rejected the premise that there was a young adult molestation scandal afoot, because that was happening, of course, where Jim Jordan was as the assistant wrestling coach. So that guy's trying to play hypocrisy detective, going all in on this stuff the way that Ted Cruz is. And meanwhile, that's the dude with an actual like minor abuse scandal. That's where we are. And that's why Deadspin.com is like a very popular target right now.
You just flippantly threw out there half black-faced. That's what we're talking about.
It's a good jump-off point.
I mean, to talk about sports.
Pablo, thank you for joining us. Pablo Torre finds out, and Stugotz, as always.